Hi, this is Roy Ware. Follows is a talk that I gave at my church's BreadX Talk. It's regarding our 8-year struggle with our bipolar daughter Joanne and what obstacles and strategies we end up using to get her stabilized. I hope you enjoy it. Thank you. Thank you. I couldn't decide if I wanted to use my notes or not. Sandy said you should have something down, so they're right here. The thing I like about not using notes, I never get lost. So if I look confused up here, I'll just be staring at you for the next 25 minutes. So first of all, I want to thank my tennis pals over here for coming out. They don't belong to this church, but we enjoy a lot of tennis together, and it's nice that they came out. I told them, I said, you'll laugh, you'll cry, you'll kiss your evening goodbye. You'll laugh, you'll cry, you'll kiss your evening goodbye, and I know one of them said, well, they wouldn't want to miss that. So here they are, and also nice to see some other familiar faces from around the church, including our videographer. So I think what I'd like to do is tell you, first of all, why I'm totally not qualified to even be speaking here, because 27 years ago, I had a college degree in business from Michigan State University, and I've never had a sociology class, psychology class, biology class. I did marry a nurse, but this happened before that. So only thing I knew about, troubles and mental illness was probably the mother's fault, which I don't understand. That's kind of an insult to the dads. It could have been their faults too, Why'd mother get all this credit? So anyways, that was absurd. So I went to this totally blank, but it all started about 27 years ago when Joanne called me and said, Dad, my roommate keeps coming on to me and it really makes me nervous. I thought, oh boy. I can't do anything when you're in Chicago, when I'm in Des Moines, so why don't you just go pack something, leave, stay at a motel at the airport, I'll send you a ticket, I'll be waiting for you in Des Moines. So she said, great. And she said, okay, Dad, I'm at the Hilton. We don't mind Hiltons for big time, but we're more Super 8 people. We don't need $300 a night to just sleep and get on the plane the next morning. So that was a little annoying, but what the heck. So Sandy and I were down there waiting at the door, and everyone's coming out, and it must have been a cheap ticket. So finally the pilot came out and the flight attendant, and I said, hold it, my daughter's on that plane. She said, well, what's your daughter's name? Oh, yeah, she's in 27B. And I said, well, no daughter came out of there. She said, there's nobody on the plane now, so maybe she missed it. I went, doggone it, the Hilton and now this is ridiculous. So I was really mad, and this is about 5 o'clock. About 7 o'clock, I realized I was no longer mad. I went back into, where the heck is she? And so finally at 10 o'clock at night, I go to bed, where in the heck is she? So this is also unusual. The next morning the phone rings, hey Dad, this is Joanne, aren't you gonna come and get me? And I went, where are you now? I said, great, don't move. We're calling our brother-in-law in Chicago. He'll be there in 20 minutes to get you. So we called Eric up and he said, I got to go get Joanne now. And his wife said, well, hold it, aren't we going to do it? He said, this is emergency. I'll see you later, goodbye. And so he was down there, had Joanne, and then the two families, my former wife and Sandy and I, we all drove down there and got Joanne to bring her back. Probably drugs, don't know, So anyways, we stopped at McDonald's and Joanne felt totally uncomfortable eating inside with us. She wanted to sit out on the curb by herself, and she was about 90 pounds, sunken face, did not look so good, obviously paranoid, and so we went, oh, bummer. Now, the 2 points I want to make here for those that want to leave early is one, you better be motivated. And number two, you need a plan, a system, a formula, a something or other to make this work for you. And so we went ahead and brought Joanne home. And you'll see under this whole thing here, I want my daughter back. And I don't care what it costs or how much it takes. I want my daughter back. I don't want this person that I enjoyed biking with and watching Saturday Night Live and sharing our off-the-wall humor with. She's very funny in a good way. And so she's not there. This is somebody else. And so she talks about, why are we hiding her twin somewhere? and she knows I was around, but Jack Nicholson's her real dad. And like, this is bizarre. This doesn't sound to me at all like drug problem. It sounds like psychosis, and that's what it is. So don't let that word bother you. It's just delusional. And you'll see how, when I talk further in this, that the delusion, which is real popular today in politics, also carries over to the medical community. So we're now home, and I call up our doctor. I said, I'd like to bring in Joanne. She said, well, I can get her in, like next Friday, a week from this Friday. No, I said, no, I need to bring her in, right away. And she said, well, I just don't have any opening. I said, well, would you go back and talk to the doctor and see if I can bring her in between patients or at his lunch break or whenever, but she needs to be seen today. And she said, well, okay, just a minute. So anyways, I'm not usually that forceful, but hey, I want my daughter back. So this brought out a different level of pain that I hadn't experienced before. So I'm going to change the subject now and tell you what I did for a living. Tell you why I was actually a perfect candidate, even though I don't know anything about the psychology except mothers or whatever, and that nonsense. I build Super 8 motels. We bought Super 8s, we build them. So when you built the Knoxville Super 8, way tougher than buying the Austin or Albert Lee motel that exists. All we have is a piece of ground. I buy the ground. I'm out thousands of dollars. Then we need a feasibility study. That's $5,000. In the meantime, the bank says we aren't going to commit to anything until we have all your investors, their balance sheets, money and all that to actually finance this. So we go get the partners. The feasibility study comes back, the soil's bad. So 2 steps forward, 1 step back. So we find out we can fix the soil by putting mounds of dirt on it for a couple of months to compress it properly. A couple of partners say, this is not for me, I want my money back. So now the bank said we can't do the financing, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Now you need new partners, ones that can drink the Kool-Aid. So they went ahead and got out, and I got new ones that came in, and they compressed the soil, and so we got it made now. Oh, they said, actually now we're going to be pouring the concrete in the winter, and the winter cost of concrete is another $10,000 more. So also, your numbers now are going to be all off by the CPA because you were hoping to open the spring, not right in the middle of January when no one's traveling. So that'll be a few more thousand for the CPA. In the meantime, the lawyers run up stuff, saying bills, whatever. Partners are dropping out. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. This is perfect for mental illness. Perfect. This is why it worked for us, because I'm used to 2 steps forward, 1 step back, endless frustration. I'm used to that. So that was sort of like, okay, we need to see Joanne. I'm not going to wait a week from Friday. How about if I bring her over, blah, blah, blah. And she comes back, so the doctor said, you can just bring her over right now. And I said, great, perfect. So we go over there, and he comes back 5 minutes and says, she needs to go to the hospital. And I said, I agree. So she goes to the hospital, and they give her Risperdal, which is an antipsychotic. And she come in there, and she says, hey, Dad, what am I here for? What's going on? I said, well, it sounds like you're having some mental health issues. She said, I wondered if that wasn't the case. And I said, well, it's amazing that you're so cognitive right now, because yesterday you were having problems with lots of stuff. And so her doctor put her on 4 times a day and a whole handful of pills, and he told us she has bipolar, and she's bipolar 1, that's the worst. Bipolar 2 is not so bad. Bipolar is the worst. I like the old word, manic depressive psychosis. And so she tends to be manic, she tends to be depressed, and she has delusional thoughts, which is also psychosis. So that was fine. That wasn't too bad. We at least now have her on medications, and hallelujah. Ooh, was I naive? Yeah. So we go home, and she stays with us and all that, and got to bring her in a week to see the psychiatrist. And I sit out and read the Popular Mechanics. And those that me know I'm not rude or mean. At least I don't mean to be. I call all our balls in, right? Yeah. So when in doubt, I always say they're good. But remember, I want my daughter back, okay? That's the bottom line. And I have an expression, lead, follow, get the hell out of my way. And I know you can use that word in church because I heard pastor use it, and it's in the Bible. So that is, I'm very mild and very gentle, but if it's a goal and my daughter, get out of the way, because I'm coming through, like it or not. So that was that first strong thing with the receptionist that said, we can get you in a week. I'm not waiting a week. I'm getting her now, or I'll call somebody else. That simple. So he got her right in, got a psychiatrist, got the medication. Whew, that wasn't too bad. So now we're going back and see the psychiatrist in a week. I'm reading Popular Mechanics, and he comes out and says, she's doing very well. And I thought, I didn't say this to him, but so remember, this is what's in my head. I'm not saying this, okay? I want to emphasize that. I just said, okay. My motel building thing said, hold it. He just says she's delusional and doesn't understand reality. He diagnosed her last week, and now he's getting all the information from her. He didn't ask me anything that she sleeps 20 hours a day. All the cars driving down the road are talking about her, of course, that's logical. That's paranoia. And she doesn't relate with the family at all. So I'm glad she's doing okay, but to me, this is not having my daughter back. This is basically sad that these pills aren't snapping her out of it. Because I always heard that if you had mental illness, first thing you do is just snap it out of it, and you'll be fine. So why is she snapping out of it? I don't know, but I don't like that. So what I decided to do is write him a letter, just a short note, and tell him about what I would call I think it's the big three. It's the sleep pattern, 20 hours a day isn't good. It's the eating pattern. She eats 1 or 2 meals and they're not good, they're just stuffing them down. And the medication, is she actually taking it and is she consistent, etc. I go into her apartment and I find the blue and the yellow ones on the floor. She said, I know the blue ones aren't that good, so I just took the yellow ones and I washed them off, and I left the blue ones down there because I don't like them. And I went, okay, obviously we haven't corrected the delusion. I don't even know what the blue ones or the yellow ones are. How would you know, you know? So anyways, we put them in these little plastic things rather than the bottles, because you put one out and 4 fall on the floor and kick them out of the way. And we put them in those individual things so she wouldn't mess them up. So what happens is you open Monday and you're kind of anxious, and Tuesday and Wednesday open too and they fall on the floor. So we still have missing pills, and we don't really know which ones we missed. The ones for the mania, the depression, the psychosis. We have no accountability. We just know the results isn't good. Is it missed pills, or is it basically hasn't set up yet, or what the heck's the difference? So anyways, I'm thinking, why would you get information from Joanne when you're not getting it from me? So I asked him that. He said, oh, I can't talk to you, she's 26. And I went, yeah, but I'm her dad. He said, well, unless she gives consent or whatever. I said, well, can we get forms to get her to get consent? He said, well, you have to take that up with her. So anyways, have a nice day. Sorry, that was the wrong answer. So psychiatrist number 2, Dr. Corcoran, the one that's actually going to save her life. And I went to see Dr. Corcoran, and the lady said, I thought it was a female. And I said, yes, my daughter Joanne. So where's Joanne? I said, well, I wanted to come in to see if Dr. Corcoran and I could work together before I bother you with Joanne. What? I don't know if he'll see you or not. And I said, well, tell him that I was sent by Betsy, and he worked in the Winona Hospital, and that Betsy's a dear friend of ours, and especially of Sandy. And so we would really like to meet him and see if we can work something out. Said, this is rather unusual. Usually you have to have the patient here and all that. I don't even know who to bill. And I said, well, just go ask Dr. Corcoran he'd like to see me, maybe 5 minutes. She came back and said, yes, he'd like to see you. She was kind of surprised. I wasn't. So anyways, I can't, with this microphone, give you my demo, but my demo was this. It's a triangle. Can you see that triangle? And I said, here at the top of the triangle is you, the doctor, In this corner we have the social worker that is helping her cope with her disability. And the other corner we have the family that's giving you feedback on stuff like sleeping and eating and medication and consistency and social involvement and connection and etc. And right in the center of this triangle we have Joanne. All of us are on the same page. We're all working towards the same goal. And he said, totally love it. Let's do it. And I said, now, do you have a social worker you work with? He said, yes, I do. And she communicates with me, whatever. I said, well, Joanne took a butter knife and kind of scratched her wrist, and the last doctor didn't even know about it. I have to tell him that, did you know she was kind of doing a practice slash your wrist stuff, but never had a good knife. So anyways, it would be really nice that social worker told that doctor that and not me have to tell you. This is very inefficient. And he said, totally agree, totally agree. Let's get on the bottom of this and let's get her fixed. Perfect. So this was what I was really surprised at, is that the medical community is asking me that builds motels to figure out, how do you have a plan, how do you have a structure, how do you have a system in place for administering. They stop taking their meds, they don't have insight, they basically are maybe semi-suicidal or whatever, they act out. I've had 1 or 2 cars totaled, I can't remember. Please pick her up, water an apartment. And then the one that really excited Sandy was she would light her cigarettes with a lighter, and it wasn't lighting, so she grabbed the Sunday paper and lit the paper in our brand new house that she and I built together in the kitchen. Flames coming out of this newspaper, lit her cigarette. Sandy screamed and yelled, put it out. Joanne put it out in the sink and said, quit being rude to Sandy. And Sandy ran out the door in tears. So Sandy said, I don't think I can live like this. We've only been married 2 years. And I said, I don't think we can either. Let's put Joanne in one of my apartments. And so anyways, we moved Joanne up to one of my apartments. I think I had 48 apartments then. And then I moved my office from a real fancy, nice one with doctors and CPAs right next door into our apartment building. And so that was good. I could go over in the morning and say, here's your medication. Did you swallow? Thank you. And then go back before I left and give her medication and have a consistency to it. Well, and that's when we came into the pill problem and on the floor and et cetera. And I thought, well, there's no accountability for this medication. How are we going to solve that problem? See, it's just exactly like building a motel. The soils looks good and everything looks good, utilities, money, everything, bank, and then you find out the soil's no good. So anyways, we found out that the medication stuff, this was not a good system. What I did not know about, and I brought a demo along, is the Girl Scout calendar. And those, you can see the little pills on here. Okay, those are my little colored pills. It's like a Girl Scout calendar, and it's called a blister package. And so what they do is they put them, the pharmacy, in these little packages, and then they pop out each day by pressing on it, and it pops out the back. Now, if you miss a dose, and also the new doctor changed, I said 4 times a day is impossible for us that have all our faculties. Can you make it twice a day? I said, absolutely. So we have the AM and the PM, that's it. And everything is from the blister package. You pop it out. Now, if she misses a day, we can say, oh, you actually missed last night. No wonder you're having some side effects from the withdrawal. And they aren't going to fall on the floor because you only pop out one at a time. And you have to press on it and they come out the back. I'm a pickleball player, says, I swear I was aiming for your feet. So anyways, that's what you say when it hits them someplace. So anyways, this was so vital that when one of the pharmacies said, we're not doing blister packs anymore, I looked into buying the $500 machine that did them because I was going to do them, because I was not going back to the little plastic things that we have or the bottles. I have no accountability. I don't know if they take them or not take them or whatever. Highly recommend the blister package. Called all over, found another pharmacy that would do them. That was where we're going with our medication. And they got $3,000 a month, thanks to U.S. taxpayers, that pays for Joanne's medication. So that really was a huge breakthrough. So now we have in place a plan with Dr. Corcoran where the social worker works with the family, but we still get insurance people won't talk to us. You go to get copies of records. Oh, I'm sorry, you know, she's an adult. I can't share with you. And this was holding me up. I want my daughter back. That hasn't changed. Don't get in my way for the obvious stuff. Why can't I just give you this and help me? You know, I just need copies for stuff. I'm sorry. Bureaucracy. I found out from NAMI, I said, you can have her adjudicated a minor. And I said, well, what's that cost? And they said, $500. I said, great. So we went to the lawyer with Joanne and gave him the $500. Said, is this your wife? And I said, no, this is Joanne. Oh. And Joanne said, I trust my mom and dad, and I want you to tell the judge that they can be my mom and dad again until we're on top of this better. And she said, oh, this will be very easy then when you actually consent, because usually the patient doesn't consent, and then you have to hear why and now and blah, blah, blah. So anyways, the judge signed that right away, and every year we had to renew that. So I finally went into somebody and said, oh, I can't give you the whatever, the copy. And I said, minor, I want it all. Oh, sorry, sir. So lead, follow, get the heck out of my way. I'm trying to solve a problem here. I don't need bureaucracy. People hold me up. Rules, regulations, standard procedure, anything else. I need to get it done. So that's my point number one. You better be really motivated. If you're going to give it a shot, it isn't going to work. They're not going to take their medication. The doctor's not going to call back on you. You're not going to get any feedback. And you're wondering, like, one of the ladies in my family planning class said, I wrote to the doctor last year and I haven't heard a word. When I didn't hear a word, I went down to the office and I brought another paper with me. I said, could the doctor talk to me about this? Or one time I was sending faxes to them. And they said, well, they didn't like faxes coming in because it looked like it was confidential. And I said, well, great, I'll just drive 20 miles on my way, come down and give you the info before you see them. You need to know what we're seeing. We're seeing her daily, you know. You're seeing her to do your compartmentalized medication. Here's the drugs, good luck, and I don't know what happens after that. How do you deliver 4 times a day when they don't have a get up at 7 o'clock, that's your morning, then your noon, your dinner, they're not even eating. It's just, why not help us form a system and make it work better, you know? Why would we have to figure it out? And for all my poor people, families that have loved ones with mental illness, they're floundering around because they expect the medical community to figure it out for them. And the bad news is I don't think they have. And if they have had your doctor, then you got a really great one. So our Dr. Corcoran kept her in the unit. The unit is the place with 2 doors. You can't get out when you go in, which we were in. She was in 2 or 3 times a year for maybe 5, 6 years. After about 1 week, the insurance company, it's $1,000 to stay there in case you need a visit. And they're like, can they walk, can they talk, get them out of here. So she'd be there 3 or 4 days. The medication was changed, has not been stabilized. He was able to keep her in there for 1 month. So when she walked out, everything was in a balance. Now, you know, in your brain, there's dozens of hormones, and the ones we're talking about are mostly dopamine and what's the other one with an S? Serotonin. Thank you, serotonin. Yeah, just blanked me on that one. Serotonin, that's another biggie one. And so which one of these do you need to activate? It's Wellbutrin for dopamine, and it's Celexa, Zoloft, and others for serotonin. So there's another dozen, GABA, something or other. There's other medications for that. There's Risperdal for psychosis. There's lithium for mood swings. All of these are like trying to find a needle in a haystack. There's no blood test. There's nothing definitive to actually show you need this, this, and this, like there is when you and I have an infection or whatever. And also, when it comes down to, I had a bursitis in my hip, so I go to play tennis and I hesitate, and that was my excuse to miss the ball because I was hesitating. I couldn't move forward. I waited about 2 days to go see the doctor, x-ray and all that. So you got a bursitis, it'll take about a month to heal and go away. So now I can accelerate fast to get that ball, and I don't feel that. High insight, I want to fix it. Low insight with goofy thoughts, mental illness or whatever, or basically a low level of depression. That is frequently missed. There's 2 types of depression. There's situational, and that's when you lose your money, you get fired, or you lose your spouse. And so if you lose your money, you go make more money. If you lose your job, you need a new job, or you need a new spouse. So you fix those by doing something. Okay, so now you're depressed over don't know why. You can't snap out of it like your relatives want you to do. Just snap out. You need a trip. You need a vacation. You'll be fine. There's something chemically that changed in your brain or your loved one's brain that basically gives you a biological-based depression, psychosis, mania, and that can be fixed with medication and insight, but the insight is hard to come by because the family wants you to snap out of it, take a vacation, and the person having it is hard-pressed to acknowledge it. So let's see if I miss anything here before I take your questions. Okay, nope, got that one. Okay, so about 3 years ago, Father's Day is Sunday, and Sandy and I are leaving tomorrow to go to Des Moines to see Helen and Joanne, my two daughters. And so Joanne, about 3 Father's Days ago, said, Dad, I got a surprise for you, and that's right here. And so she sent me this. I wanted to show you this. It was a picture she had made up. She worked at Michael's, and the note on it said, Dad, thanks for saving my life. Yeah. I appreciated that. I want my daughter back. You better be motivated. You better have a plan. I did not know that other things besides mental illness also have strong denials. I kind of learned that this week. And so it's really hard to help somebody that doesn't acknowledge the limit of what is happening or have the insight to know what they could do to make it better. So if you have the wherewithal to know that, you're miles ahead of those poor souls that don't, and you can help them by keep showing them the reality doesn't agree with what they're saying. So at that point, if anyone has any easy questions, ask them. If you have hard ones, just go ahead and leave. So yes, Angie.
What was the time frame, Roy, from the call in Chicago to when you felt you had your back?
I would say the whole thing took us 8 years, and I think if I had support from the medical community that basically said, okay, here's what you got to do. You have to have a social worker. We need to know what you're seeing, and we'll do the medical part and all that, but we need good feedback. Dr. Corcoran was wide open for doing that, and he opened the doors to get it done. And so before we saw him, it was, maybe a couple years, and then, it's still back and forth, not take the medication. The toilet's overflowing in the apartment. I open the door, and Joanne's wearing boots. And after 3 months, entire summer of being at our house, Sandy said, why don't you put her in one of our apartments, because it's goofy having this goofy person at the dinner table every night. They just stare off into space, and they eat, and they just disrupted to our new marriage. So I said, that's a good idea. We'll put Joanne in an apartment, all that. When I went there and found all that water, all that, and I hopefully I can tell you what happened. Remember, we were so relieved to have our house back, our life back after 3 months. I called up Sandy and I said, I just have to bring Joanne home. And all Sandy said was, does she have anything for dinner? Because I can make her something. That's the kind of heart she has. Can I make her anything for dinner? So she was just there for a few days and then went back and said, we got her back on the medication. Getting on the medication, staying on it is the big trick. So did I answer your question?
You did.
Whatever it was. All right. Any other questions? Susan?
So looking back, did she actually have some issues earlier in life that you noticed?
Not really. She was, it's typically hits in the 20s though. No, she really didn't. She was a normal child. She was artistic, and she has a degree from the Chicago Institute of Art. And she's creative. She's in the Gifted and Talent program, and she actually graduated from college. There's no way she could graduate now. She can't concentrate long enough on something, and she can't remember to keep, she just ran out of food again this week and called DoorDash, cost us $45 for a pizza or something or other. So that's my constant day-to-day stuff. I manage her money, and I'll actually send a chat. I'll say, what was this item purchase? And then it'll say, it's a Bitcoin thing, how to make money in $1 million in a week. And so I'll go, we cannot afford to waste that money. So So this is a constant battle on trying to get that out. But the actual time when she was really stable and we had outside resources like Scott and all that, we had a party at our house. We had Dr. Corcoran over there, Scott the social worker, mom, dad, relatives and all that to kind of celebrate Joanne's normalcy. And from then on, so she's held jobs, and she has a friend that lives with her, and she has girlfriends. She's been on 2 cruises the last couple of years. She thinks she's gay, but she said, Dad, don't you think I'm gay? And I said, well, you've never had a gay lover, and have you ever kissed another woman? She said, no. And I said, well, I guess I don't think you're gay. She said, but I like being on there. And I said, well, I like women too. If it makes you happy, go ahead. So, well, do you hate me if I'm gay? And I said, no, I want you happy. So you go have a good time. Well, was a female minister on the last one, and her partner that just kind of took Joanne under their wings and did the excursions and all that, and she had a wonderful time. So if she's having a wonderful time and happy, it's legal and safe, I'm all for it. Any other questions? Yes?
It sounds like she was kind of a willing participant in the whole process.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like the people that I know that have family members, they're very unwilling to participate on any level of having a family involvement.
Yes. I think it's probably because we had a strong relationship and I still am dad. Because I was thinking she's hit me in the car while I was eating in the face, which was not good for my driving. I've been slugged someplace else, but if she was a guy, doing that to me, I'd probably gone up a tree. So yeah, there's still, when we went down to get her in Chicago, you can't take me home, this is illegal. And I said, here's the way it's going to work. I'm getting you on a flight, and you're flying home, and you're getting the back seat. You're leaving now at 2 in the morning. Because after she took my car back to Chicago, within a day it was impounded. And we finally got that out. Bill and I, with our ties and suits on, that's my son-in-law, left for Chicago, and we're moving her out between midnight and 2 in the morning. So to bring her back home. So the first time she came, it only lasted about a week or so because she was all normal, all better. She took my car to go back to Chicago, and it fell apart again. So then Bill said, how long do you think she'll be in Des Moines? I said, anywhere from 5 years to the rest of her life. And it's basically the rest of her life. She lives a mile from her mother, and her sister is a godsend also. She needed a new car, and Helen and Bill took the day off from work, went and got the car, took my money, bought it, and then got the plates and all that kind of stuff. So the insurance, everything's all done that would never have gotten done so smoothly. And so bless her heart. And Bill said to Helen, you'll be doing this eventually all the time. Thanks a lot. Okay, any other questions?
Do you still manage her money?
Yes, daily.
And, so what's your plan for when you're not here?
Yes, I'm 80 in 5 months, you can tell.
I have a son.
Yeah, I don't have a
And
plan.
I do all these things.
I don't have a plan for it. That part scares me. Yeah.
I mean, if she can't manage her, finances.
I know it.
And my son is 6'3".
Wow.
I'm not somebody that can pick him up and throw him in the car and say, we're gonna do this.
Yeah.
Right? So that's what's really scary. And when you say social workers, I can't believe you had a social worker for years, because there are no social workers, and they basically are, 6 months, turnover. There's no consistency. The county
It's a mess.
the counties have got 2,000 people, 2,500 people waiting for some sort of evaluation. It's like, I don't even know where you find, those people anymore.
Well, our social worker was something like that, about 1 year. We have no contact. She's no social worker now at all. Yeah.
I mean, I just don't, we've had social workers and they've been good, but then they move on and, then there's not a new one. Or then it takes a year to kind of develop a relationship, and then that's gone,
Yep. Yes.
Can you tell me again, Roy, this was all in Iowa, right? Or
Yes,
was
uh-huh.
Here, okay.
Mhm.
So was it a smaller community in a smaller county? Where I know here in the Twin Cities, my stepmom lives in Glencoe, for instance, and she worked for the county, and just through her stories, it sounds like smaller counties and rural counties. Well, my mother-in-law is in a nursing home in southern Minnesota. It's night and day different from dealing with what my mom would have had in Hennepin County and
Yeah.
somebody in a smaller county. I can call the county, and the person I'm calling answers. You know.
What a
was
concept.
Your experience?
Des Moines is 500,000, so it's not real small,
Okay.
but it's not, like several million up here. So it is, everything is smaller.
Would it possibly be, I mean, I realize it's a big deal, but could it be a strategy to move to a different county?
It could be.
It's sad to say, I mean, I'm sorry, that's not
Right.
the answer anybody should have to do, but maybe.
Maybe, yeah. And our counselor, the social workers were somewhere between 6 months and a year, and then that has not been going on now for 20 years. She does not see any, she just sees her psychiatrist every 3 months. And in fact, he's retired, she has a new one now. And they change hardly anything because they hit the magic mark. They will change like the antipsychotic to a more current one, where she doesn't take lithium at all anymore. There's other mood stabilizers that are better. So they just kind of tweak it a little bit, but she doesn't get any therapy or whatever. She gets therapy from Dad. And basically the therapy she gets from Dad is, man, that was good, I'm very proud of you. Don't worry about that. What do they know? Encouraging her, making her feel good about her. So that's my therapy. Priest is self-esteem. Any other questions? Yes.
At what point was she able to communicate to you exactly what she was experiencing? And did you develop then a rapport with each other so that she could disclose what was going on for her? Because it seems like for a lot of people with bipolar, their problem is that family maybe, but friends, other people don't really understand what I face every day.
Yeah, especially side effects.
When was it that clicked for you?
Well, one of the things that started off with is she was a very, very close personal friend and my daughter. She wasn't just a daughter. We did things together.
Yes.
And so that has already been established as far as going over and seeing her in college and communicating with her boyfriends and having them over, staying the night, and this kind of stuff. So there was already a real tight closeness there. So that trying to build it in a more intimate way because she now has a mental illness didn't have to happen. That was already there. And she started having insight, like Sandy and I were down in Florida, and she'd call about every day, and I looked at my bed down in Florida. It was all the sheets were wadded up and kind of on the floor and all that. Didn't look like I slept very well. We actually left a day or two early, came back. She said, "Dad, what's going on here? I'll do push-ups, exercise." She was totally depressed, big time, and she hated the pain of it. And I said, what you're feeling is now the pain of depression, and it's the worst because you don't know where to put the Band-Aid. And she said, well, what do I got to do, blah, blah. So we got to go to the doctor, get the medication changed or whatever, and you'll feel fast real quickly here. So she's gaining insight all along, and she will call up the doctor in the last 5 years and said, hey, I've been really blue about this or whatever. I'm feeling disorganized. Do you think I'm falling apart or whatever? And he'd say, well, what was happening? Well, this person at work did this and that and did that. And he said, well, it's not like a bad day at work. And so when she was working at Home Depot, she was having a bad day, and the manager said, you need to go home, Joanne. She said, well, am I fired? He said, no, you just need to go home. And she said, well, do I come back tomorrow? So I said, sure, why wouldn't you? But right now you're having a bad day, so go home. So she said, I'm not fired. I said, no, just go home. And you're not having a happy day, so why do you want to be here? So bless her heart, they knew she was bipolar and they worked with her. And she told them when she went in, she said, I need some accommodation because it hurts my disorganization. And it hurts the fact that she also saw a veteran out there and said, I just want to thank you, sir, for your service and all that. What you did for our country was amazing. And the veteran's tearing up. She goes around and gives him a hug. So this at Home Depot. So all that kind of stuff really kind of touched my heart. But yes, she likes the people that she works with say, hey, I'm bipolar. I deal with it. It's not easy. And so what good insight is that, But I was lucky in that we were close all along. I wasn't coming in as an uncle or somebody.
So what I hear you saying is the context is important. The context of family, the not everyone has those things.
They do not.
And so I see you going and giving talks, in different places to help people see that they can build these if they're committed and want to
Yeah.
Do that.
And that's hard for even as parents because they basically are bewildered because they assume the medical community would have already told them about these things. And once again, all I knew was building motels. That's always something. It never goes, you just do it. No, that was nothing to it. It's just always falling apart constantly. Yeah. Being self-employed for 40 years, someone said, and I thought it was kind of funny, when you're self-employed, you go out of business 2 or 3 times a year just to show you recover. So all you people that had nice cushy jobs with paychecks, that's too boring for me. So anyways, this was, once again, the perfect thing for putting up with the endless frustration of issues that come up from county to county or whatever. So I don't want to hold you up from ruining your whole evening. Any more questions? Oh yeah, go ahead.
You talked about you wanted your daughter back, and we know after a diagnosis like this, you don't ever, they aren't quite what you expected. What helped you transition to acceptance and love for your daughter?
Yes, I told myself back in the bad days, I said, I got a good cry coming soon, I deserve it. But right now I'm too busy making decisions, picking up the pieces and doing this and that to do that. So I'm going to cry someday, but not today because I got too much to do. So there's times that got to me, like when we took her to court to get her committed because she wouldn't go to the hospital. And we took her on January 1st, New Year's Day. And the hospital went, came out and said, you need to let your daughter grow up. And anyways, I'm not going to admit her or whatever. The problem is that you're basically not letting her grow up. And I went, thank you. So we took her home because she wouldn't admit herself, and we can't admit an adult. So anyways, the hospital said that'll be $300 and some dollars. Okay, I need to explain some things to you. Obviously, on January 1st, you did not have a psychiatrist there because you were covering for somebody. I knew more about psychiatry than this guy. We've been treating her for 5 years, including your hospital, and now you're billing me for somebody that should be doing something other than advising patients and loved ones. They said, don't worry about the bill. Oh, great. So once again, get out of my way if it's stupid. That was stupid. So that was the end of that. So another time, we went to the hospital. She wouldn't sign anything, so we had to have them pick her up. And the police pick her up, put her in the hospital. You have to have a trial. You have it in the hospital within like so many hours or a day or whatever, a day or two. And so she gets a court-appointed lawyer, and then we get a lawyer that's by the state or county. It wasn't our own money lawyer. And then there's a judge on the phone. And Joanne said, I eat 3 meals a day and snack in between. You look awful thin. And so the judge said, Joanne, you were on medication before and it worked for you. I think you'd be happier if you just took medication. And Joanne said, okay, that's what I'll do if you want me to do it. Thanks, Judge. So that was the end of that. He said she can go in the hospital until she's released. So here's the moment that got to me. Pat, my former wife, went up to our attorney and said, thank you for your kindness to my daughter. That got to me. What am I doing in this bad drama of putting her in the hospital, taking her out, trying to figure this all up, plus wrecking my cars? So any other question? If not, I hope some of this helps you on giving insight to other people. Basically, you have to be highly motivated. It's totally frustrating, and have a plan. And every time you have something, the pills on the floor, you change your plan. They smash your car, you have another plan. You move them around, you have another plan. And so if you have that kind of motivation, you could be lucky like we are to have a daughter that says, thank you, Dad, for saving my life. Thank you. Thank you for watching this video. I want you to know that I'm more than happy to speak with groups, and you can see how you can contact me on my cell phone, texting or calling. Also, please like this so that others can learn from our experience, and please share with others that might also want to know more about coping with mental illness within the family. Thank you.